This is a recording of the content presented at our 2015 Holiday Lunch event, an annual event that we host for wellness decision makers across a variety of industries. This year's presentation was titled Empowering Employees Through Wellness Education. My name is Dr. Jaty Tam. I'm a naturopathic doctor with a private practice in Markham, Ontario, and the founder and medical director of Well Street. Before I became a naturopathic doctor, I was a computer engineer working in the corporate world. This combination of the problem solving of engineering, my experience within the corporate world, and my expertise on health and wellness as a naturopathic doctor led to the formation of Well Street. My mission behind Well Street was to help show people that wellness isn't just something to focus on during your off hours, during your personal time. When you're healthy in all spheres of your life, both at home and at work, you improve your ability to work well and be more productive. Well Street offers on-site, education-based, holistic workplace wellness solutions, including a wide variety of wellness seminars and programs. So we all know that wellness is important. So important, in fact, that 90% of companies recognize and offer some kind of wellness solution to their employees. And we do this because we know employees want wellness. 87% of employees consider health and wellness offerings of a company when they're choosing an employer. And why is this? It's because people want to be healthy. 58% of consumers agree that it's important to eat healthy and pay attention to nutrition. And people aren't just eating healthy food because their doctors or mothers told them to. They're eating well for very specific reasons, to feel physically better, to improve their quality of life, and to have a balanced and nutritious diet. The Business Development Bank of Canada published their top 5 trends shaping consumer behavior for the upcoming year. The top 5 for 2016 includes consumers being more aware of healthy choices in food, cosmetics, and ergonomically designed products. Half of consumers consider the health impact of a product before buying, and a third of consumers would pay a premium to buy healthier products. So we know that people want to be healthy. The problem is that it's just not that easy. There are a lot of messages coming at us from a variety of sources about exactly how to be healthy. Through social media like Facebook, through all the different blogs that are out there, articles that you may read in the newspaper, articles in magazines, all the new books that are coming out, even on the news, they're talking about how to be healthy. There are shows like Dr. Oz giving you lots of advice. And then, of course, you have your friends and family who have read a book or seen on Dr. Oz or heard from another friend or saw on Facebook some kind of health advice that you just have to follow in order to be healthy. And this advice isn't just coming from gossip, but it's coming from actual experts, doctors, scientists, experts in the field. And the sources may seem trustworthy, yet 2 scientific studies may contradict each other, or experts may disagree and give conflicting information. In fact, contradictory health information was so prevalent that in a study published in the 2014 Journal of Health Communication, they found that a whopping 71% of people had heard moderate or high levels of contradictory nutrition information, and that the more contradictions, the more confused they were. The problem is further compounded by the fact that the media is just not clear that research is constantly evolving. New findings are published as the absolute truth, the new guideline, the thing that you just have to do. And there's often little understanding by the public that different research can provide conflicting results, and that you need to take the bigger picture into account to understand how the research can be utilized by any one individual. So here are some examples of conflicting research. So we've been told for a really long time that fat is bad for you, choose low fat. But now people are saying that fats are healthy. We've been told to eat a lot of fish, it has good healthy fats in it, but to limit your fish because there's lots of mercury in it because our oceans are polluted. We've been told that eggs have a lot of cholesterol and that you shouldn't have too many of them. But now we're being told eggs also have good fat and are a good source of protein. So there's a lot of conflicting research out there, and the problem is that all the facts on this slide are all true. There was a study done in the US in 2012 that showed that this confusion is getting so bad that 52% of Americans believed that doing their taxes was actually easier than figuring out how to eat healthy. So what are we supposed to do? How do we keep ourselves healthy? Well, what's actually happening, what people are doing, is there's a huge backlash against nutritional advice in general. People who want to be healthy just can't trust the information. So they're saying that dietary recommendations should be taken with a grain of salt because who knows what they're saying? Everything is different, everything is conflicting. Just take it all with a grain of salt. And people are saying that scientists don't really know what foods are good for you because one scientist says something and another scientist says another thing. So how are you supposed to know who to trust? The shocking thing is that people are also starting to ignore widely accepted nutritional advice, like eating plenty of fruits and vegetables and exercising regularly. They're just backlashing on all nutritional advice. So what we're doing is just throwing in the towel and going back to our previous eating habits, our unhealthy eating habits. And that is typically the Western diet. A diet that's high in red meat, sugary desserts, high-fat foods, refined grains, high-fat dairy products, high-sugar drinks, and higher processed meats. In fact, Americans eat 31% more packaged food than they eat fresh food. And the Western diet has been linked to a number of health consequences: obesity, heart disease, diabetes, fatty liver, infertility, hormonal imbalances, and cancer, especially colon and breast. And we can see that this is a problem when we look at Aboriginals in North America and foreigners who come in like Asians who develop these diseases in high numbers when they start to really make drastic changes from their traditional diets to the Western diet. Let's take a look at how Canadians are doing. So, the recommendation is to have 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. 70% of children aged 4 to 8 don't get those 5 servings. 65% of preteens 9 to 13 years don't get that. And half of adults do not get the minimum number of fruit and vegetable servings that they should be getting on a daily basis. When it comes to meat, we should be having 2 to 3 servings. A quarter of men get more than that. Women are doing okay. When it comes to fat, fat should make up about 30% of your total calorie intake for the day. 28%, so over a quarter of adults, get 35% of their calories from fat, so much more than they should. 18% of our daily calories are being consumed at breakfast, yet 23 to 27% of our calories are eaten in snacks. That means we're eating more calories in our snacks than we're eating for one of our main meals of the day, which is breakfast. 25% of Canadians are eating a majority of their meals at a fast food restaurant, and it's more in teenagers and even more in 19 to 30-year-old men, and that's the highest. So it doesn't look like we're doing that well as Canadians. So how do we figure out what's right and what's wrong? And how do we help our employees figure out what's right and what's wrong? Well, we can't just look at the situation in black and white. We can't even really look at it as a spectrum of grays. What we have to do is start to look at it as a spectrum of multiple colors. So let's take this question. Should I eat meat? Is meat bad for me? Well, on the good side, it gives you protein and iron. We've been eating meat for years. And in our evolution, when we started to eat cooked meat, it actually helped our brains grow bigger. And it's what helped us evolve to the thinking people who we are today. On the bad side, meat contains specific types of arachidonic acid, which will increase inflammation. It has certain types of bad fats, certain types of saturated fats that can cause heart disease, and it can contribute to cancer. But when we look at the colors, we can't just look at the good and bad. We have to look at the quantity and the quality of the meat, and we have to eat good quality meat in moderation. These next few slides I'm going to show you are examples of excerpts that we've taken from some of our seminars to show you how we would teach employees the concepts that we're discussing. So, what does a cow eat? Cows are supposed to, in nature, if they were roaming free on their own, they would eat grass. When we grain feed cows, so feeding them things like corn, we find that they have higher cholesterol elevating saturated fats in their meat. When cows are grass-fed, they have higher omega-3 fats, higher vitamin A and E content, more antioxidants, and overall they have less fat content in their meat. You can tell when you're at the grocery store the difference between grain-fed and grass-fed, other than the labeling and the price, because the fat on a grass-fed piece of steak will be a little bit more yellowish, and that's from the increased vitamin A content in that fat. Now, what about a chicken? What does a chicken eat? As you're thinking about this question, you're probably thinking corn or grain. And when I think of a chicken eating, I think of Cinderella in the Disney movie, throwing kernels of corn to the chicken. In reality, if a chicken was off on its own in the wild, it would not be able to kind of jump up to the stalk of corn, peck through all the layers of the husk and the silk to get to the kernels inside. What they're actually eating is grass and bugs, things that they can peck at close to the ground. When a chicken eats what a chicken is supposed to eat, we can see the difference even in the eggs that they lay. So this top egg here is an egg that was from a chicken that was fed grass and was able to roam and eat grass and bugs. And you can see that the yolk is more orangey and it holds together a little bit more. The one on the bottom is from a grain-fed chicken, and the grain-fed chicken eggs tend to have a very pale yellow color, and the whole egg itself, when it's raw, is more watery. So the difference is that there's more omega-3s, more vitamin A, which is bringing out that orangey color in the eggs for the chickens who have eaten well. So let's look at another question. Is stress good or bad? Well, on the good side, stress can motivate you. On the bad side, if you get a lot of stress, it can be very negative, and a lot of us know the consequences of that. When we look at the colors, we can look at the fact that good stress can help to motivate us, and we do need it, but when it becomes too much, it can actually become overwhelming. And that you don't have to remove all stress, but instead you can change your outlook on it. So here are some excerpts from a seminar that we have in our blog. So how much do you believe stress influences your health? Not in general, but your actual life. A little, B, a moderate amount, or C, a lot. So I want you to think about your answer. So what they did was they had an 8-year study. They surveyed 29,000 people, which is a really, really large group. And then over the next 8 years, they looked at their death records. And what they did was they asked that question to these 29,000 people. And the people who answered a lot had 43% more deaths. The group that had the least amount of deaths had actually a lot of stress. It wasn't that they had no stress in their lives. They had a lot of stress, but they didn't think that it actually had a negative impact on their health. So it's really a matter of perspective. What we're learning is that it's not how much stress you have in your life, but how you perceive stress that can affect your health. Aside from that study that showed the impact on death and longevity, perception of stress has also been linked to mental health, heart attacks, work performance, and stress hormone levels. So by looking at productive, healthy, good stress that inspires and motivates you, you can be healthier and you can see your stress as being positive for your health instead of something that's negative for your health. So you've probably heard of something called the fight or flight response. It's our response to stress. It's an ancient response that our bodies have developed in order to fight off a predator like a bear. And what happens is our senses become more acute, our breathing becomes faster, our heart rate speeds up, our blood pressure goes up, our blood sugar goes up, and all of that blood is diverted to our muscles. And we do this so that we can flee from the predator. The thing is that now, even though we don't fight off bears on a regular basis, we sit at our desks and we have stress that's more internal, but the reaction in our body is still exactly the same. When you look at these things that I've listed here, when else do you feel this way? Your heart rate goes up and you're breathing faster and your blood pressure goes up. That also happens when we're being brave or gutsy, when we're doing something like skiing or public speaking or trying something new or going above and beyond. So when we're looking at stress and finding a way to take away the negativity of it, when you see stress as enhancing, as bravery instead of a burden, it can have a really significant impact on many areas of your health. So what we're trying to teach people is to think in multicolor. There's no right or wrong choice. And there's often some reason why one option could be deemed quote unquote wrong, but there really isn't a wrong choice. As long as you are knowledgeable and educated and you're thinking about all those different colors, what we want to do is help enable people to make informed decisions, to help accept the pros and cons. And then there is no wrong choice. There are just a myriad of right choices, and it depends on your situation at that time which choice is the most right for you, but then you don't have to worry about taking the wrong step and making the wrong choice, which can be really distressing for a lot of people. And that's kind of what fads are. They're very restrictive. They're very other directed. You have to follow somebody else's instructions to the T. And they only really lead to temporary changes. When we look at some statistics with fad diets, we see that 62% of Canadians lost over 5 pounds over the last 5 years, but they didn't keep the weight off. 70% of people, especially those who were overweight or obese, regained all of the weight that they lost, and some of them even gained more weight than they started with at the beginning. 39% of them followed a restricted diet. 31% of them used real meal replacement bars or shakes. 23% used weight loss supplements or herbs, and 21% tried fasting. What we want to do, because we're trying to educate people, is to help people understand how to make informed decisions that are dynamic and self-directed so that their changes become lifelong, not just short-term while the program is running, but that it goes on for much longer even after the program is over. So I'm going to give you some examples of how we help people make informed decisions so they can make lifestyle changes. So let's look at this question that we kind of brought up earlier about saturated fats. So we've heard a lot about how saturated fats are bad for your health. They increase bad cholesterol, which can lead to high blood pressure and heart disease and stroke. But a study in 2010 looked back at 21 other studies done before it, which looked at a total of 350,000 people. It's a really large number. And they found that there was absolutely no link between saturated fat and heart disease and stroke. Shocking, right? What they found is that the early studies, which led everyone to vilify saturated fats, were short-term, and they only ever looked at animal fats. And they only looked at the effect on cholesterol levels. They didn't look long enough to see if those changes in cholesterol levels actually led to any later disease. Despite the poor quality of the studies, those initial findings had a huge impact on shaping guidelines to limit fat that started at around 1976. But what we see is that since then, the percentage of obesity has increased steadily. What happened was that people were switching their fatty bacon for bagels. And what we now know is that replacing saturated fats with refined carbs can really screw up your cholesterol levels. It can make your triglycerides, a type of bad cholesterol, go up, and it can make your good cholesterol go down. And that can have a significant impact on your heart as well as your waistline. What we now know is that not all saturated fats are created equal. Saturated fats from plants like coconut and avocado, and animal fats from animals that have eaten the way they're supposed to eat, like grass, have been shown not to have harmful effects on cholesterol levels. So a general rule would be to stay away from those factory-farmed, grain-fed meats and processed foods. They're probably going to have the kind of fats that can cause problems, but instead add some healthy fats from avocados and some grass-fed beef, but you shouldn't have a dozen eggs a day or 5 avocados a day. Everything should still be done in moderation. Now let's take a look at vitamin D. Here are some examples of what we tell people to help them understand vitamin D. So why is vitamin D called the sunshine vitamin? It's because we convert active vitamin D on our skin when we are exposed to UVB rays from the sun. In the summer, at midday, the sun in the sky is right up above our heads, right atop of us. But in the winter, in Canada, in the middle of the day, the sun is not right above us. It's kind of in the middle of the sky in the horizon. So even if you went out in a bikini in the middle of a winter's day on a really, really sunny, cold day in December, and you were sunbathing, because of the angle at which the rays come through our atmosphere, because it's not right above us, it's kind of on the middle of the horizon, the UVB rays are actually blocked by our atmosphere, and we do not convert vitamin D on our skin during the winter months. And that's why most Canadians are low in vitamin D in the winter. So it would be probably a good idea to take some extra vitamin D as a supplement when the sun isn't up high in the sky anymore. So that's usually from the months between fall and spring. The other thing to consider is what type of vitamin D you're taking. A lot of people are taking vitamin D, but they may be taking the white tablets. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so if you're going to take vitamin D orally, you need some kind of fat along with it to help it to absorb into your blood. If you're taking those white tablets, which have no fat in them, and you're taking them on an empty stomach, you're pretty much throwing your money away. You need to take those ones with some kind of meal that has some kind of fat in it for you to absorb it. You could get a vitamin D supplement like this one that we're showing here. It's just an example. It's called Demulsion. There are a number of companies now that make demulsions. And what that means is the vitamin D has already been pre-emulsified into a fat base. This one is 1 drop is 1,000 IUs. They make kids ones where 1 drop is 400 IUs. And with that, you can take it whenever because it's already been pre-dissolved into the fat. You don't have to worry about taking it with or without food. When we look at the amount of vitamin D that you need, if you were to go out, or if you were to travel to Cuba in the middle of the winter, where it's really sunny, closer to the equator, sun's right above your head in the middle of the day, and you're on the beach, the point at which your skin starts to slightly pink a little bit, you are converting between 20,000 and 30,000 IUs of vitamin D on your skin. It's quite a lot. So supplementing somewhere between 1,000 to 5,000 IUs in the winter is a drop in the bucket compared to what you would get from sun exposure. Now let's take a look at multitasking. It would be easy for me to just tell you, don't multitask, don't do it, it's not good. But what we want again is for people to understand why. So when you're multitasking, you're not actually focusing on multiple tasks at the same time. What you're actually doing is shifting attention between those tasks. You're just shifting them very quickly. What that actually means is that you're not really paying full attention to any one of those tasks. You're just switching between them very, very quickly. And it'll take longer for you to complete those tasks overall. So what I've tried to show you is how we help people make informed decisions. And what the word I always go back to is empowering people through health education. And this is actually from the World Health Organization. Health promotion should address effective empowerment strategies, such as increasing skill and control over resources, increasing access to information, and they also stress that small group efforts help to enhance critical consciousness on health issues, help to build supportive environments, and help to develop a deeper sense of community. So this is from the WHO, and I just found this recently, and this is our Wall Street philosophy, and I love how closely it actually ties into the WHO's writings. Wall Street's philosophy is that we focus on health education in order to build skills and knowledge so that people will feel empowered. We do everything on site, we work in small and large groups because what we've found is that these groups help increase motivation and support, and they help build a community and culture within the organization. So when we look at the modern employee, and this is actually taken from last year's holiday lunch presentation, but let's kind of go back to that a little bit and look at the modern employee. Life in the 21st century, we know, is fast-paced and really complex. Our days are long, and they're full, and they're overwhelming, and they can be really exhausting. 70% of employees are parents. 65% of employees are part of a dual income household, meaning both parents work. 28% of employees are non-professional caregivers, meaning they're taking care of an ailing parent or relative. So the lines are starting to blur between work and home. When you have so much going on, you're thinking about your finances because you're both working, you're thinking about your kids, you're thinking about your aging parents. People aren't able to separate that when they come to work. They're bringing their whole selves to work, including all of these stressors and emotions that are happening in their personal lives. The symptoms of this fast-paced lifestyle we see are sleep deprivation, low levels of physical activity, high levels of obesity, stress, depression, and a number of chronic diseases. So what we're seeing is that work is not the primary stressor, yet the effect of their emotional wellness at home clearly is starting to play out at work. It's affecting their ability to work. And what we see because of this is this disengagement crisis. This is Canadians, 70% of Canadians are not engaged while they are at work. 14% of them are just actively, completely disengaged, leaving only 16% of Canadians actually engaging at work. The solution to this disengagement is the study that found that well-being was the most significant predictor of productivity, and that wasn't just for people with existing illnesses, that included healthy employees. Well-being, so how well you are, drives the degree of engagement, and it can impact the employee's physical energy, cognition, mood, and motivation. And what we see is that this trickles down to family members. People don't just live in a bubble. Their health choices affect everyone around them. Their kids, their spouse, their parents, their friends, their community, their coworkers. When we look at something like family meals, when kids and parents eat together at the table, kids tend to eat more fruits and vegetables, more fiber, more calcium-rich foods, more vitamins, and less junk food. Teens have less depression, they felt their family was more supportive, and overall, kids and teens had lower body mass. What we see is this amazing cycle. When you're healthy, you encourage your family to be healthy, and then your family is healthier, and they encourage you to be healthy, and then you are in turn healthier. So what we're trying to do by empowering people to be healthier is that we're helping them to decrease their stress and their worry about their own health and about the health of their loved ones. These are the worries that they take to work. These are the worries that impact engagement. When they're worried about their two-income family home and sharing the responsibilities of both financial and home care and taking care of their elderly parents and their kids. When everyone is healthier, when their kids are healthier, their parents are healthier, their spouse is healthier, they have less to worry about. And when they have less to worry about, we have more engaged employees. Employees that are coming to work with less stress on their minds, ready to focus and be productive and to focus on their success and career goals instead of focusing on whatever worries they may have at home about themselves, about their spouse, or about their children. Thank you so much for listening today. If you want to learn more about Wall Street's holistic wellness solutions, you can visit us online at www.wellstr.com. If you have any questions, you can contact us at any time at info@wellstr.com.